essentially what I need to do is just get a sense of whether, of your view of child and youth care work in South Africa.
Okay.
So it's there's obviously no right and wrong answers or anything like that. It's really trying to get to grips with what is child and youth care work looking like in South Africa, and is there a way that we could develop different models for training of child and youth care workers, both at auxiliary and professional level.
Okay.
And so the first part is, the first question here is, what are your views regarding whether the scopes of practice for child and youth care workers at auxiliary and professional levels, as outlined in the regulations to the Social Service Professions Act, accurately describe what child and youth care workers do, the nature of child and youth care workers? Did you manage to have a look at them?
I did.
Yeah.
And I think they do describe what should be done.
Yeah.
Whether it is being done, I would question. I think there's elements of it that are certainly being done. But I think the particularly the auxiliary level, I think they're doing the work, but maybe not able to articulate what they're doing.
And so do you think that they're doing it, but can't say that, or you think that they're actually not doing it?
I think they're doing some of it without realizing what they are doing. I've been watching the Child and Youth Care Facebook page, and people spurt out the things like working in the moment, working, dealing with crises, life space work, and they talk about it, but I don't think they get much further than talking about it on that Child and Youth Care Facebook. I think people struggle to explain what life space work is.
Do they give examples of what they say it is?
Yeah, they sometimes do. So you can see that they're doing it without connecting the dots, if you want to put it that way. And I think that's at auxiliary level. And at professional level, I was reading through the scope of practice, and I just thought, I wonder how much of it is done. They're supposed to be, for example, leading multidisciplinary teams. And I don't know whether child and youth care workers are leading multidisciplinary teams. I think it's seen as the social workers' turf.
Do you think that there's aspects of it, though, that is reflective of what they're doing?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and so you're comfortable with that the distinction between the two levels?
Yes. I think the distinction is good. I think it's right.
Yeah.
And I was reading, and it sort of like I looked at the first one, and then I thought, okay, this is the professional level, and then you've got your auxiliary level. And I think that's the distinction is right in theory.
And do you think that there are things that actually should be included that are not there? I mean, do you think that the aspects of what people are doing at either level that is not articulated there?
I think they're broad enough to cover most things that people are doing. Because it's quite broad based with behaviour management and programming and development and the care. It's broad. So I think most of it is caught. How much advocacy, I think they do it without realising it. And again, I think for me the professional one, I don't know how much people are doing it at that level. Because I think they get caught into, I don't know, that's just but you see I'm more involved with maybe training and more involved with the auxiliary level.
Sure. Yeah, but whatever your perspective is, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, and so you would consider it complete, like there's nothing else that you would add. I mean, if you think about the FET and that scope of practice and so on.
The supervision, the actual being a supervisor, I don't know whether that, I don't know if that's articulated enough. And I don't think that's not trained. I think people struggle with these supervision because it comes inherently that they're supervised by child and youth care, by social workers. You know, your auxiliary level tend to be supervised by social workers, and then they tend to go into that model of supervision, which is more office-based and not online
and just in terms of the kind of supervision that you do know of, I mean, where child and youth care workers are supervising, you're saying that there's not enough of that in that.
I didn't pick enough of that up, and maybe there needs to be more of that articulated.
And if you think about the qualification we're just doing now, and whether we've got everything.
We've got more of the scope of practice in the level 5 than there is in the level 4. You know, you've got your developmental play, which isn't in level 4. And you've got the concept of Ubuntu coming through as well, and what that means. And I think the advocacy comes through more, and linking stuff to legislation. And then the restorative stuff as well, the part training. And I think that's, people struggle with behaviour management as well, and how to manage. And they see a quick course in behaviour management as sorting people out and giving them the skills, and that doesn't always work.
And if you talk about the restorative stuff, you think that fits under the behaviour management?
Broadly it does, and that's where it's been positioned in the level 5. Although it's articulated in the level under behaviour management, these restorative practices are articulated there. But that doesn't come out in the scope of practice. It talks about behaviour management.
Yeah, no, I think it doesn't. Yeah. And anything else that you can think of, Kathy?
I'm not too sure that the scope of practice articulates developmental approach. And maybe that's something that needs to be pushed as well, is that people need to work in line with the developmental approach. I mean, they talk about the developmental assessment, but the actual developmental approach of working with kids.
Not articulated there.
I don't think so, from what I remember.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. And at professional level, Kathy, would you think that there's anything that's left out, or do you think that's absolutely comprehensive?
I think it is quite comprehensive, but I suppose there's always room for adding in more and looking at. But I think in the fact that we didn't always have scope of practice, the fact that we've got it now and we've separated it out is really good, because it identifies and it in a way positions people as to what they should be doing. So I think the professional one, it's quite broad.
Yeah. And I mean, how I guess what I'm trying to look at here is also what is the nature of child and youth care work in South Africa, and it's almost like that is part of what I need to ask you about, is what do you see as being how would you describe like the nature of child and youth care work at either level, actually?
I think obviously you
in South Africa. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
I think traditionally people still see it as residential care, and obviously the Isibindi has brought it into the community focus, and that I think is pushing people to understand that it's broader than residential care. So I think that's been a good move. the schooling comes up, the idea of child and youth care in schools comes up, and I'm just thinking of that Facebook page where people, they dance around the school a little bit, but they do talk about community work more than they used to. And so I do think the focus is still residential care though, and child and youth care centres, and it could be so much more. It could be so much more into, because you've got a couple of people. I mean, Desiree works in school, and she's really doing child and youth care in the schools, which is great, and that's what you're needing is that, and then obviously doing the court work, going into the courts, and so much. I think people could get into so many other areas in the social service areas they could get in.
Okay. So, so in terms of the nature of child and youth care work, you saying that it exists in these other settings and can be adapted to them. I'm not supposed to put words into your mouth.
No, but it could be, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people have to work out how. I think people get stuck in a mode of residential care and not realizing that child and youth care is actually in the life space, and really understanding that it's broader than being residential care. And then very often the community one is they see it as equaling Isibindi. And maybe it's helping people take that shift, that it's not just Isibindi. That it could be the drop-in centres, it could be community-based programs. It doesn't have to be an Isibindi.
That the two are not synonymous.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
Because we're getting a number of people coming in asking around child and youth care, and they come in from quite a variety of backgrounds. We've got that whole Waves for Trans, where they wanted those young people on the beaches trans trained, and then just now the ones with the blue flag beaches also wanting their people trained as well.
No, I don't know about this.
That's a whole new thing. Zenny got involved, because it's almost like they had asked us to bring Isibindi onto the beach, because they're landing up with children during the holidays.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And they came in to see us about 2 weeks ago, and I connected them up with Zenny. And he was writing a funding proposal that day for somebody from Sweden. And what they're saying is that they've got the young people that they've trained up, the youth, that are trained up to look after vulnerable children on the beach during the school holidays. But what happens is they land up at the end of the day with the children still there, and they don't know how to take the next step. And he had Googled us and wondered whether we, as Isibindi, could not come in and help. So we went into a whole conversation around training those young people up as child and youth care workers, possibly. And so that's an area that I think, those are lovely areas to look at.
Yeah, that's like child and youth care work in public spaces.
Exactly, like we did with the soccer, with the World Cup as well. I know we used our safe parks for that, but it's thinking along those lines of being child and youth care work, being out there where the children really are. So I suppose on the street as well.
But that's a very interesting new concept of, in a sense, being in public spaces like that. Yeah.
And it's where your children are vulnerable.
That's for sure. Yeah. And Kathy, just in terms of the issue of the roles and functions of child and youth care workers, can you say anything about what you see that role being, like maybe just of at auxiliary level, first of all, if you were to just in your own words describe what are the roles and what are they supposed to do, obviously there's a whole lot, so you're not going to get all of them, but just in terms of your sense of, just maybe starting at auxiliary level, what?
I suppose your basic role would be to provide care, and that's that holistic care that you're talking, not just the physical. It's the physical, the emotional, the social, cognitive, and spiritual care. So that would encompass a lot, and how they provide that care. And if that's being done properly, then a lot of their functions fall under that. And then obviously how they do life space work and how they communicate and interact with children. So providing that. And then the whole thing of being involved in the multidisciplinary team and being involved in those assessments of children and the programs of children. And then somewhere along the line I would also imagine that they need to be advocating for children. At auxiliary level they would need to advocate with the schools, they would need to advocate with people in the community and with other social service professions for the child in their care, in whichever area they're in.
And I don't know if that's in the scope of practice actually.
The advocacy is there, but I don't know if it's sitting more at professional level, but it would be a different level at auxiliary level. You would expect a child youth care worker to advocate with a teacher for that child. It's different than going maybe out and it's a different advocacy than with legislation, and at a higher level professional would be a different advocacy level or function. And there would be some interaction with the families as well, some function with the families work as well. In whichever way they're doing it, whether they're working in communities or whether they're working in residential care
as well,
they would need to function and work with families. So it would need understanding of families.
And I'm not sure whether that's in there either, actually.
I don't know.
That we can look at now. That is interesting.
And then I suppose another function would also be understanding the play. And that sort of stood out to me when I read it, was the developmental play. And I'm not too sure that many people understand that. They see it as just the children are playing. And whether they understand the whole concept of development play. And I think it's a new concept for people to work with.
And you think that is appropriately placed at auxiliary level as well, that idea that this is...
They possibly are the level that would manage the tasks. Maybe designing the task would be done at another level, or the play, designing that. But actually doing it,
they would be the functionaries.
It almost becomes like a programmatic thing that they would be doing.
Yeah. And at professional level, Kathy?
I think again it's that understanding how you work in a team and with other professions, and how we should be doing supervision, which is the online supervision. And I don't know whether that's understood enough. Because I think that is complex, and I don't think it's just a matter of telling somebody how to do their work. So I think professional level should be very much at that, and then obviously the advocacy and the more designing of the programs, both at global and at the sort of more basic level, and understanding also helping the auxiliary level to understand the importance of the care and what the actual caring function is, and interpreting So it falls back into supervision, I suppose. And doing more the therapeutic, maybe more the therapeutic counselling, the life space counselling. I think that I saw the life space counselling, it's in the scope of practice, and I'm not too sure if it sits at auxiliary level. And I wondered whether it was appropriate there. Or whether it should, I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe elements of it are appropriate, but the essence of it might be more at professional level.
The therapeutic life space counselling, that kind of.
Because we so often say child and youth care workers don't do counselling. But it's definitely life space counselling is in the scope of practice.
Yeah. At auxiliary level.
I think I saw it there. Yeah.
We can have a look now. Yeah.
And I know I had a question because I think it sat there and I thought, is it the life space work is definitely there, but I wondered whether the counselling, whether we're teaching it enough to be at auxiliary level or whether it should be more at professional level.
I'm not following you, sorry.
I'm saying I don't know whether we do enough teaching for the auxiliary level.
For them to be able to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And are you saying, I'm just trying to follow what you're saying, are you saying it should be there or it shouldn't be there at that level?
I think there should be elements of it, but I think it should be held by the professional level. So I think it's a more superior task. It's a more I don't know if that's the right word.
Complex
task. Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be putting words in your mouth.
No, complex is it's fine.
I think that was the word you were looking for.
I was looking for that, yeah.
Yeah. And Kelly, do you have a sense of whether there's a difference between how you see child and youth care work here being practiced and what you know of being practiced internationally, and what you read about and so on? I mean, you might want to think about it a little bit because it's a.
My gut response would be that I think we do very much more on the ground level work. I think internationally people are a little bit more with degrees and more professional levels. When I think of that student who came to us, she was very much more at the professional level and research, and I'm sure some of our senior mentors and that have done that at DUT, but the actual grassroots level, I don't know whether that's been done. And maybe it is being done and we're just not seeing it.
When you say like the grassroots level, what do you actually mean?
I'm meaning the auxiliary level, the work that's been done on the ground. So your actual work with kids, day-to-day work with kids, and it seems to be more. I don't know if to use the word more basic, but maybe it is more basic. But I think it's definitely auxiliary level. My gut would be that we do more auxiliary level work here, and it's more professional level. And then I suppose to counteract that, you'd have your Lebanon type of thing that's happening, where you've got your child youth care workers working in the safe park, and that would be your more auxiliary level to some degree.
And then apart from the levels, do you think that there's any difference in the way we do child and youth care work here that is different from what people might understand it to be in other contexts? Is there anything that you would think this is more like a South African approach or way of doing child and youth care work that is any different from what would be happening in Canada or in, sorry Kathy, or Lapland?
I would, and again, this is just my opinion, is that I think that we're dealing with far more children who come from poverty than what appears to be internationally. That children maybe who've got far more complex behavioural problems. And I think our children have got complex behavioural problems, but they've also got the poverty and the lack of resources. And I think that's where we have a lot of children and families coming into the system. That way, I mean, the whole HIV/AIDS thing through this country completely. And I mean, that was the reason for E70 starting.
Sure. So, but in terms of now in terms of the way in which child and youth care work is different as a result of that, do you think, I mean, you're saying that there might be that difference, and is there a difference, you think, in the way in which child and youth care work is practiced as a result? And if so, what would that be?
I think it would be that it's almost in a way more, I don't know how to use the word basic, but more basic, more auxiliary level. More basic care and providing care for children. And more in that, and when I say basic care, so because so often I think people have to start with the children who've got nothing, and you can't really work with a child and start assessing children if they're hungry and have no home, and so those basic needs have to be done first, and they have to be, so that becomes part then of the child and youth care worker's role in order to make sure that the basic needs are being met, which might be different to what's happening if the child comes in with that, or comes into the system with those needs already there. You don't have to start there. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what do you see them doing that is there to meet those needs, as it were? So what are the kinds of things that they would, this is a lot for a Sunday afternoon, but what are the kinds of things that in order to do that kind of basic care, they would be, if you're thinking that, I think, just to go back, I think that you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, that they are, the whole issue of trying to be sure that those basic needs are met before, in a sense, any other work can be done with a child is sort of fundamental element of child and youth care practice in South Africa at community level.
At community level, yeah.
Yeah. And then, but so what do the child and youth care workers have to do in order to do that?
They would have to, I mean, to put it into sort of like practice, they would have to, I mean, for example, maybe source food parcels, and to link in with getting the child back into a school, and ensure that people actually have got clothes, basic stuff, and maybe that they haven't got papers as well. And so it really goes down to the child and youth care worker taking
Maybe they haven't got, sorry?
Like ID documents and papers,
yeah.
So they would have to, in a way, go into those sort of jobs, and maybe they might not get them all themselves, but they would have to source that and be quite resourceful in doing that, and link with other services in order for the child and the family to get them before they could start maybe doing some life space. I mean, I think they would do life space work and that. They would start some of that. But they wouldn't be able to do intense work with a child until you've got that sorted. And I'm just thinking back to when we did a visit, when we went to Denmark And then we went to those community, I think we went to some of those community houses, or was it, might have been Mazzini in America as well. I'm just trying to think where it was. And we went to some houses where they were looking after young people who came into the system because they were challenged behaviourally. But it was quite sophisticated care. And I think, and sophisticated counselling that was being offered. And I don't think we start at that level. I think we can get to that level, but you've got to do a whole lot of stuff first before you get there.
Yeah. And so when you say child and youth care workers have to be quite resourceful, what do you mean by that?
I think if you're working in a community that's got a lack of resources, you've got to understand where can you get food from for this family. And it might be that you land up getting a food garden going, which is a community, maybe a community task. Also, where, if you've got to understand how to work the system with birth certificates and how to get the child back into school and to be able to advocate. So that sort of stuff needs to happen at quite an early stage, I think.
I've lost the track of what I was supposed to be asking you here.
You were asking me about the functions, what they were doing differently.
Yeah. And then at a professional level, Kathy?
I think professional level seems to be more what is happening internationally. I would equate the professional level with what appears to be happening internationally. And whether that's happening, as I say, I think that could be a question. I think it's happening in patches, and I think certainly the NACCW mentors would be doing a lot of that, hopefully. Some of them would be at professional level, and should be operating at that level. And then some of the supervisors in the child and youth care centres should be at that level as well. But whether it's all happening ideally, and that was the one thing that stood out for me was the developmental assessment team, and that was it managing that. And I question whether the child and youth care worker, professional child and youth care worker, is managing the development, and maybe they are. But my gut is saying to me that that's still being held by social work. And many child and youth care workers talk of being supervised by social workers still. So that would say that the professional levels are not working at that level then.
And do you think, if you think about the professional level training, you might not be that familiar with it, but do you think that there are things, or we could maybe start with the auxiliary level first and just say, do you think that there are additional elements that need to come into the training at the auxiliary level? I know that we've now just gone through this recurriculation process, so you're quite familiar with it. And do you think that everything is caught in that, or do you think, and I don't necessarily mean just even, maybe you could just talk not only about, content, but also approach, Are we training our child and youth care workers as we should, and in South Africa, and if not, how should we do it?
I think the moving from the level 4 to the level 5 is going to be a positive move, because I think there is a lot more that's coming to the level 5. I think when we did the whole development, we picked up a lot of the gaps.
Yeah.
And we added, which was great, because I think we had the experience of level 4, and we've got them hopefully up to level 5. And so you've got the gaps, and we also, I think, learned, so as I say, like the developmental play and the restorative approaches have come in there.
Yeah. And anything else?
The whole thing of managing children, the behaviour management, that wasn't in. And consultative supervision has come into it more as well. And I think that's good, and I think the advocacy is in there a bit more. And the whole idea of the admin and programming, which wasn't in before. It was there, but it wasn't it was programming, but it wasn't also that difference between administration and program, so that's come in. That I think there's still, and maybe that's going up a level towards professional, but it's your specialised tasks that like child protection. Whether there's enough of that at level 5 or whether that goes up into professional level, I don't know. But I think the reality is that auxiliary level do land up working, particularly in the communities. They must land up working with the child protection issues. And do they have enough knowledge of that? And again, is there enough at professional level for people to be debriefed and counselled if they're dealing with abusive stuff?
You mean to be able to debrief
yes.
Auxiliary level people?
Yes, and I just wonder whether that's enough there.
And do you think that there's enough, I mean, from what you understand, is there enough on child protection? I mean, or maybe let me ask that differently. What do you think ought to come into the auxiliary level that we don't have in place? I mean, the professional level, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, I think just dealing with abusive kids who've been abused is a whole new, it's a minefield. And if you don't understand abuse and you don't understand the dynamics of what's going on, you can be actually quite damaging as well. And you can be damaged through it all because it can become quite traumatic. So I think there needs to be a lot more. And I don't know enough about the new one at DUT, for example, whether there's enough understanding of child protection. Because I think it's also seen as a social worker's realm. And the reality is that, especially in community, well, also in residential care as well, you are exposed to it, and you have to, often you're the one who deals with it.
And Kathy, if apart from, is there anything else that you would think that we need to look at introducing to the professional level?
I don't know. I have to think that one through.
Yeah. You talked earlier on about supervision.
Yeah.
So
I don't know whether supervision is enough in there, and the way to do supervision. And again, maybe you were talking about how we do training. Maybe we've also got to look and see how we can make it more accessible to people. So maybe the idea of it being, how can we do it online? When I say online, on the internet, so can we do distance learning? And is there a way to do that? And so make it more accessible to people. Because I think that's part of the issue. So you've got people sitting out in we're still getting people saying, I'm sitting in this area and it's way out in that area. And how do you bring that one person in? And they want to do child and youth care. And how do you bring that person in and that one person?
It's a very interesting point.
And we used to have it with UNISA, but I don't know whether it can go back to what UNISA did, or whether it's possible, and maybe that will happen with UWC. But the auxiliary level is not available that way, and maybe we've got to look at that and see how we could make it available, and not lose the experiential part of it, because I think the experiential part of it is is really necessary and essential.
You would think it's the non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, essential, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kathy, if you think about child and youth care work taking place like in an African context, you know, is there anything that you think that is particularly African in the way people do child and youth care work?
I suppose your whole concept of Ubuntu would come in there, and just people, and I think also just the whole understanding cultural stuff. I think people have a better understanding of cultural stuff because they have such wide, and particularly if you think about the refugees and the refugee work that we've done, where, you know, you've got to understand that person is a person, you know, and that it doesn't matter where they've come, but at the same time they do have cultural. I think the whole thing of being culturally competent as well would come in terms of African child and youth care, because I think people do deal with a wide variety of cultures within one, even in a community. You can get particularly your urban communities as well, not maybe your rural community. If you've got a child and youth care worker from that community working in their own community, maybe that's easier.
Yeah.
But if you're working in urban communities, you're getting
a mix,
and so people would obviously need to be very culturally aware.
And when you say Ubuntu, what do you mean?
Oh, it's the classy thing of you. I am because you are, but I think that is very much what happens in community work, where people are accepted, and that child is the community's child. So the community are also brought in. Very often you would then need to work within a community more than just a family. So you'd need to be aware of how to work in communities and bringing the where it's necessary to bring the community in, rather than just dealing with a nuclear family. So it might be more extended family and particularly with the whole, I suppose, with the effects of the HIV pandemic, you've got people who still, I mean, you've got your child-headed households and your extended family needing to come in, and people are still, I mean, with that.
And yeah. And are you saying that we should be training to that as well?
I think so. And I think we've got to be able to train to that. And whether we're doing enough of the community work, I don't know. Because we tend to say that's community work. But maybe that's got to come in. Certainly understanding how to do it and how to work in a community. I think the family workers come into more the level 5. There's a bit more family work, and it's more in the professional qualifications is family work, I think. But it would be understanding the broader family, not just a nuclear family.
And as you say, you said community. Community
work, yeah. Community programming and interesting enough, I mean, just on the side, that whole tender that we're responding to in Limpopo is talking in the same breath about community caregivers and child and youth care workers. So they're equating them as the same.
It's interesting, yeah? So they're seeing child and youth care workers, you're saying, as community caregivers.
They talk about CCGs, and I was like, what is that? And it's community caregivers, and then they say and child and youth care workers. And then they talk about drop-in centres, they talk about NPOs and CBOs at community level.
So are they seeing child and youth care workers as community caregivers? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think they're saying the community caregivers must be trained as child and youth care workers. Because the training is for child and youth care workers.
Yes.
But they're bringing in the community caregivers to get that training. And then they're bringing the other category they talk about is volunteers.
But are you saying that the role they see for child and youth care workers is almost as a
same
professional child care community caregiver?
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be putting words into your mouth.
But they are saying that. Yeah.
Interesting, hey? It's just these subtleties that have to be drawn out, you know, and that...
And then they talk of volunteers as well. So obviously there's people who are still volunteering and doing child and youth care work.
In inverted commas.
Yeah.
Okay. So the inclusion, just to be sure that I'm with you. You're saying is around child protection, around community staff, and supervision to summarize it.
And then maybe for more family work. You just need to just check and see what family work there is.
Yeah. And Kathy, if you think about the kind of interactional styles of child and youth care work, I'm just picking up on what you said here and so on. It's like, do you see there being anything that's quite particular about the way in which we're doing this in South Africa or not? I'm just trying to pick up and summarize what you said here.
I think there is a definite feel that at auxiliary level people are doing that basic work and that's required, and that style is maybe it's more basic. And I think sometimes when you and again I'm just thinking about the conversations you see on Facebook, people are still feeling quite undervalued in their jobs. And that they're not valued for all the work. They talk about all the work that they do and the hours that they put in, and that they're not valued. And that's a concern, that people are still feeling that they're not seen as a profession, and then they're not, their stipends don't come through, and they see that immediately that they're not valued. So I know it's a bit off the thing, but I think that goes into the work that they're doing as well, that they see it sometimes as so. They feel that they're doing basic work, but in fact sometimes when they're basic work they're doing profound work. And they're maybe not able to verbalize it as the profound work that they're doing.
And listening to you saying you think it's profound at times.
I think it is profound when you hear some of the stories and you see some of the stories.
Yeah.
They're dealing with really difficult, challenging situations, and many of them are doing it quite well.
Yeah.
And they do bring in the characteristics of child and youth care. They throw it in. We're working in the moment, we're dealing with crises, we're doing life space work. And they talk about they talk about the theory, but they don't always connect it to what they're doing, and yet they're doing it. I don't know if that makes sense.
I don't quite know what you mean
Okay.
there.
They talk about the theory. They'll quickly rattle it off. Then they'll talk about something that they've done in practice, but then they don't connect those two.
And can you give examples of what you're talking about? I mean, can you, just think about when you say some of what they do is profound. Can you give a sense of what that is, or would that be too difficult to try and dredge up? Examples of what people have done.
I'm thinking of a story that was in our journal once, and we've used it in our training material, which to me was a simple story, but to me it was quite profound, where the child youth care worker went into the family and understood that it was the child's birthday, and the child didn't have a cake and had no gift, and they made it out of mud cakes, if I remember rightly, and they had a whole celebration making mud cakes and putting the candle in the mud cakes and celebrating the child. And I mean, that was good, solid child and youth care work and life space work. And that child felt recognized and could identify their birthday. And for the child and youth care worker to think that through, and didn't take any resources really.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And Kathy, when we're saying how should we focus our child and youth care work, I think we talked about the content, but did we talk about the approach and to our training?
Yeah, I mean,
and the education.
Yes.
If you can think of both.
I think I'm just very aware that many of our trainers are very much at the same level as the people that they're training. I mean, we're not sitting with a lot of professional child and youth care workers training. Most of our trainers are at auxiliary level. And they've often, we talk about the wounded healer, they're often the ones who've come through the system, been a child and youth care worker, gone through the mentoring, and they're now training. And maybe we've got to look and say, should we have trainers of another level training? But maybe we don't have another level to train enough around the country. And yet at the same time, you've got people, so I'm sort of backtracking in a way, but saying at the same time they do understand. They've got that, they've been there, they've done it, so they're able to really understand what the child and youth care workers are going through. So you've got that side of it. But whether we've got to, I mean, we train in a very different way, I think, to some of the other training providers.
And what is the difference?
I think ours is far more experiential, far more connected to the practice than theory. And whether we do enough, whether we've got to bring in more theoretical understanding and link it very clearly to practice, maybe that's what the level 5 will do, because I think the way it's structured, it will bring in more theory.
And you see a value in that?
I see a value in it, but obviously you don't want to lose the connection between the practice. You don't want to lose the practice. You don't want to be sitting just teaching theory, because I think that then you'll lose child and youth care work. So you've got to have a balance between the theory and then the practice, but you've got to link it. And I think that's what's vital, is to make sure that we're linking the practice and the theory, and that we clearly can help people, the learners, to link that as well. And I think sometimes they come in and I'm talking level 4 now, where they come in and they come into the training, and then they've got to go back and do the assessment task, and it's sometimes they feel it's a big thing, and then when you translate what they've got to do, there's suddenly an aha moment, I'm actually doing that. It's not going to be extra work I have to do. Yeah, I'm doing that work. So it's almost given them now a way to articulate what they're doing.
Yeah. And do you have any opinion about that at professional level? I mean, about the approach?
Yeah. Some of the professional students that I've, the ones who've gone through, let's say, DUT, and maybe have gone straight from school into child and youth care studying, and don't have the practice, they seem to lack that richness of the practice. And one wonders how one does that, because obviously you want to create it as a career path so people would go from school. But how do you create that practice richness and experience for them? In that the child youth care workers auxiliary level seem to have. And it's because they're working, and I think maybe that's the difference. You've often got what I've seen is you've got students who are not working, so they're going to university, and it's a bit like what I had when I was, many years ago, when I trained as a social worker. I didn't know what I was going into. It was only when I started practicing that I realised what social work was about. And I would imagine that it's the same sort of thing that some of our professionals are dealing with. It sounds good, I want to work with children. But it's only when you start doing the actual practice that you start understanding what you're doing. And maybe that's, I think for me, that would be such a critical thing. And making sure that practice is brought in. It doesn't become a theoretical exercise.
Okay. Kathy, I've already kept you an hour, believe it or not. An hour and 5 minutes.
That's all right.
It's a long time. I don't know, is there anything else that you feel you want to add in all of this? What do you think we've covered?
I think it's also, and I think for me, it's trying to understand people. A lot of people in this country, well, not a lot, we've got a lot of people who have done training in the past, and maybe not the accredited training, and they sit with the BQCC and they sit with the HQCC, and now they come in and they want to do the FETC, and how can we do that recognition of prior learning? How can we take what their practice is and give them credits? And I think that whole recognition of prior learning is an area that I think we need to look at, because I think we need to understand it, particularly also if you're going to move from level 4 to level 5. What is it? We've identified it theoretically, but what are those gaps, and what is the practice gap? And then as you go up the levels as well, if you wanted to get people into level 6 to go to university, what are the people going to? What do people need? And not just a theoretical thing. I think for me it's the practice.
And if I hear you correctly, you're saying, how do we clearly assess what they come with?
Yes, yeah. Because people often come into the training with sometimes years of working, but no formal accredited training behind them. And sometimes they haven't even got the BQCC or that. They've just done a mismatch of other training. But they've worked. And how do you, it's being skilled enough to how to translate that and see what they actually, as I say, recognize it all and give them credits if you can.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Kathy, I just hope all of this is, yes,